Okay guys, so in this video we are going to talk about how to automate drop down controls like this control. This is called drop down combo box, you can call it as. So it allows us to select a value, right? So BMW, Benz. So if I click on Benz, the BMW gets deselected and Benz gets selected. If I click on Honda, then the Benz will get deselected, Honda will get selected. So at a time we can have a single value selected. Now we want to automate few test cases on this, like test cases like if I click on this say Benz, then the Benz is the one which is selected. Okay, this is the test case which we want to automate. For that we have to understand how to select these options from the drop down, what are the different ways we have for that, and how to check or how to confirm whether the correct element is selected in the drop down or not. So let's start doing that. So I'll first inspect the element. So I'll right click inspect and I will just inspect this. Now let's understand the design of this element first. So I'll say copy element and I'll just put it into the notepad. There we will discuss about the design of the element and then we will take it forward. Right now you can see here that there is a select element. Okay, so select element is there. So select element open, select element close is for this drop down. And if you open this drop down, the values are BMW, Benz, Honda. Where are these values coming from? So these values are coming from these option tags. So drop downs are created with the help of two HTML tags. One is select, and the options from that drop down are nothing but option tags. Like you can see option tag, there is a value attribute set, right, and there is a text for that option tag. So this text is what we see for the elements when we open the drop down. Like you can see for the first BMW is capital, right? So is the case here. BMW is capital in the text of this option. So the text which we see for the options after opening the drop down are nothing but these texts like BMW, Benz, and this is Honda here, right? So these are the texts which the user sees when he opens up the drop down, and these value attributes are for the purpose of developer. Like let's say my developer want to check which is the option value selected in a given drop down, and based on that he wants to handle something in his code. So the developers, for their implementation purposes, to know which one is the selected one, they uses this value attribute. But for the user purposes, this is the text mentioned. Now if we see, like as we all know that, right, we have been learning Selenium since last many days now. So we know that if we want to select or do any kind of an interaction, the unique identification has always been very, very important for us, right? So is the case here as well. Like if I want to select a particular element or particular option from this drop down, I need to be mentioning something unique so that my Selenium tool would be able to understand which option tag I am asking it to select, right? So what are the different unique things with respect to these option tags? The first unique thing is the locations or the indexes of these option tags inside this select. So indexing is like here the first option tag has index 0, second option tag has index 1, and third option tag has index 2. So if you want to select the options with the help of their indexing, you can do that. There are total 3 ways we can select these options in the drop down. So the first way is using the indexes of these option tags. The second way, so there are 2 things apart from indexing. There are 2 more things unique with respect to every option element here, and that is nothing but this text. Okay, this is called visible text, because as I had mentioned, this is the text we see for the options when we open the drop down, and these are unique always, right? You don't see any drop down where there are multiple elements with the same text. Let's say there is a drop down called city, so there would be Pune, Mumbai, Nashik, Nagpur. So every option would be unique always, right? There won't be multiple options with the same visible text, right? So visible text tend to be set to the unique values always. So this is unique, so we can make use of this also to select the options. And also this value attribute is also tend to be kept unique, because developers in their implementation, if they want to know which current value is selected, say, and based on that they want to handle something in their logic, so they also need this value to be set to the unique value, unique data, right? So value attribute, this visible text, and the indexes, all these three things are unique with respect to every option tag what we have in this select. So we can use any of these three to select. Okay, now let's start with our test cases. Having said all these things, now let's start. So I'll create a new file. I'll say new class Combobox handling. I'll say public static void main finish. I'll just take the initial 3 lines from our previous test. So I will just copy those lines and I will put them here. So these lines are nothing but setting up the driver path, then calling the Chrome driver and starting the driver exe and establishing the communication session, then maximizing the browser window, and then opening this URL into the browser. Now next is like we have to inspect this element, which we have already done. So it has got an ID set. So as we have already always been doing that, finding the element and storing the scripting reference of it in one of the web element variables. So that we are going to do again, web element cars drop down equal to, and I will say driver dot find element by ID, and I'll just mention this ID car select here. So what it will do, it will find the element. So driver will find the element having the ID set to this car select and will return us the scripting reference which we are storing here in this web element variable. So I'm just importing this web element from our Selenium package. Now what next? Now what I want to do, I want to select the particular option, right? I want to select the particular option from this drop down. But this web element, this web element variable which we use to interact with the UI elements from the page, once we get the scripting reference, let's say I got my scripting reference of this button element, so I can click on it by calling that scripting reference dot click. So web element is something which we have always been using to call the APIs to perform different kinds of interactions like click, clear, send keys and all. But the requirement to handle the drop down is a bit different here. We don't want to click on it, we don't want to type inside it, right? So these kinds of interactions are not something which we perform on the drop downs. We actually select the particular option, we actually retrieve the selected option. So these kinds of to perform these kinds of things, there are no APIs available in the web element class. So there is a separate class implemented in Selenium for doing these kinds of operations on drop down, and that class is nothing but select. So select is a class, right? So let's create a select. Say you can give any name to your variable. Say, so I'm just importing this class from Selenium. Like just keep an eye here that I'm not importing it from this Sun org Apache. I'm importing it from this second notification here, second suggestion. Selenium, from Selenium I'm importing. Now what we need to do, like all the APIs now, whatever the the interaction APIs now I'm going to call, like selecting a particular option or getting the selected option and all that I'm going to do with the help of this SE. But when I will do it with the help of SE now, how would it know that those operations are to be performed on which element from the page? So there has to be some link, right? There has to be some link between the SE and the element that SE should be doing the operations against. So that scripting reference of the UI element. So this is the representator of that UI element from our script here. So we can establish the connection between this and our SE, so that now whenever I'll call any API using this SE, so it will know that it has to be performed against the UI element, the representer of which has been sent while creating an SE object, right? So I'll say SE dot. Now you can see here there are multiple APIs available to perform the desired operations. So first is I want to select. So as we mentioned, there are three ways for performing the option selection. So the first is select by index. You can see, so indexing, as we have already discussed, inside that select there are, let's say here in 3 option tags. So the indexing starts from 0. So the inside the select, whichever is the first option tag would be 0 index, then 1 index, and then 2 index. So select by index, select by value, and select by visible text. So we are going to do both. Let's do with the index first. Let's say I want to select this Honda option. So what is the index of this Honda option? So index of this is 0, this is 1, and Honda's index is 2. So I will say here in my code, I will say 2 to select the Honda option. Then I will just use thread.slip just to pause the script a bit here. It's not the requirement of our scenario, but when we will run the test, it will go on selecting different options very quickly, and we won't be able to observe that which the option it is selecting. So I'm just pausing a test here, and then I want to select this Benz option, but with some different strategy. Now there are 3 strategies. One is index, another one is what we are now talking about, using this value attribute. So as we have already discussed, the values are also here, you can see they are uniquely set. So I'll say SE dot select by value. So if you want to make use of the value set to that value attribute for selection of an option, you can use select by value. Again, I'm going to pause the test for test execution for 3 seconds here. Now I want to select this BMW, but now with the help of this visible text. This is called visible text because that is what is visible for this option when you open the drop down. So this is also again the unique, right? So as we have already mentioned, there are 3 aspects which are unique: index, values, and visible text. So you can make use of all those 3 aspects according to your requirement. So I'll say SE dot select by visible text, and I will say this. So BMW. Right? So this is what we have done. So we have done the selections. Now let's run the test and observe what it is doing. Okay. So I will just do the compatibility setting in my browser. There is a problem here, guys. You don't need to do it. I am doing it because there is some problem with respect to compatibility of my Chrome browser with my machine OS. So that's why I need to do it. You guys may not have this problem. But if you do have, then you can follow those steps which I just did. Otherwise, you can run the test directly. So I'm running the test. So you can see that the browser got maximized, and now one by one you will see the options will get selected. Now just keep an eye over here. So here now first the Honda will get selected. Once the page loading will finish, like you can see Honda got selected. We have paused 3 seconds, Benz, and then BMW, right? So every option we selected from it with a different strategy each time. Now what I want to check is, like, after I select this BMW, I want to confirm that the BMW is indeed selected one. Let's say you have a application where you open the app. Okay, you open the app. Let's do it like that. Let's discuss about the real-time scenario. So once you open the app, so you want to confirm that the BMW is the currently default selected value in this dropdown. That is your test case. So if the BMW, instead of BMW, the Honda is selected, then you want to fail that test case. So before you do the selections, let's say once you open the page, okay, once you open the page, as soon as you do that, you want to here confirm that the BMW is indeed the one which is by default selected. Now this is quite kind of a real-time scenario. So instead of selecting and then checking whether the correct one is selected or not, instead of that, this is something which is the real-time scenario. Now let's see how can we confirm which one is the selected. So there is an API for that in SC select class, that is get first selected option. Now what does it return? So whatever the value which is currently selected or the option which is currently selected, that get first selected option returns us the whole option tag for that selected. So this is the one which is selected, right, when our page gets opened. So we will get this whole option tag as a web element, will get it returned, right? So I will say web element, say selected option. I can give any name to my variable, but I'm just being sensible here by giving the proper names. And here we will get this selected whole option tag, we will get as an web element inside this. Now I want to confirm some data, right? So either I can confirm what is the value attribute or what is this visible text, so that I can confirm yes, the correct one is being selected. So what I'll do is I will just fetch this contain the text from this and I will confirm that it is indeed BMW. So I'll say if control V dot get text. Get text is something we can use to get the contained text that we have already discussed in our previous videos and sessions. Dot equals, and if the contained text, so option tag, if the contained text is indeed BMW, then I will say correct option, correct default option is selected, say in cars drop down, and else correct option is not selected. Right? Now let's say tomorrow if it happens that once you load the page because of the bug, once you load the page, say this Baines is like, it got selected as a default value. The Baines is the option which you see by default selected here. Then what will happen here is that Baines related option tag we will get in that. So this option tag we will get in this variable, get first selected option will return the Baines option, right? Here I'll just put it here just for the understanding, and then I'll remove it once we are done with the understanding. So in case of that, we will be getting this in our selected option tag. In this selected option variable, we will be getting this, right? Then get text. So selected option dot get text will give you this Baines, the contained text of that. And here we are checking whether it is equal to BMW, but it is not, right? So it will fail. This if will get evaluated to false, and we will get this, that the test case is failed, right? So this is how we can check whether the correct value is selected or not in the drop down, right? So this is how the drop downs can be handled, but for that you have to be very much clear about the design of this control. Also, what is this select is all about, what is this options are all about, indexes, values and visible texts are all about, right? But this approach, like what we are discussing in this, is only possible with the drop downs which are defined using select and option. But if you are using AngularJS and different themes like material theme and all, so there if you have this select as mat-select and this as mat-option, material is a theme, so there we get to see something like this. Then you cannot use this approach what we have just talked about. It is only with the HTML type of drop downs, not with any material type of drop downs. So you cannot use this for those. But if you have any legacy application you are working on designed using HTML, so you will definitely find the drop downs are designed with the help of this select and option tag. So there definitely you can follow this approach to cover up your test cases, right?